my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well. Welcome back to Krown's Keto Cave. A nice little Monday morning over here from me to you on this Helsinki rainy Monday morning. Jesus Christ, man. I was woken up all night by this like pounding rain on my windows. Anyways, we got a few things to talk about on Bitcoin. Some weekend fuckery inbound, or actually outbound as we just ended the weekend. But a lot to talk about to follow from yesterday, as we did get a little bit of that bounce that we were looking for. I was looking for a little bit more, but closing the day out at $10,000, closing the week out at $10,000, actually better said. So we will have to come back and kind of analyze that. Keep in mind that today is a holiday for the Americans, meaning that I believe it's President's Day. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but it's a holiday, so it's a bank holiday. There's no trading going on in the American hemisphere. So once London kind of closes their day down, I wouldn't really expect all that much in good old cryptocurrency land. Anyways, with all of that said, I'm really excited because today I've spent all morning fixing up and really optimizing the new computer, and I'm ready to start streaming exclusively from it. So later tonight on Twitch, I'll do my first stream from the new computer with everything running, the new, or not my new mic, but the mic that doesn't sound like a fucking potato can, and cameras and all sorts of graphics and whatnot. Very excited about that. And I'll probably start somewhere around like 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern time, depending upon when I get home, eat some food and take a little bit of a dumpy dump in the shower. All good. And on top of that, I want to say that the Krown trading application is now alive. So now that it's live, let's go take a look at it, because it does have some very interesting information that is going to tie in exactly with today's analysis. So with that said, I'd like to wish you the best of and the happiest of the happiest, and press that teleportation button to take us into the live scene right on over here. And what do you see? Bitcoin dominance actually shooting up about 2%. So we are seeing that bounce that we spoke about for the last few days, and we'll have to keep that one in mind when we actually look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. But for now, looking like the stabilization playing out as Bitcoin comes down to that critical 9,600-ish level as far as charts go. Anyways, what's most important right here is once again the open interest, and now we actually can really nail this down with the timing component. So we have the open interest present. It is still above 1.4 billion, and now we've gotten one of the major signals that I've been waiting for to kind of denote and kick off this next absolutely what I think is going to be a pretty damn massive move. So let's go to the actual price charts right here. But before that, I do want to say you can grab this application 100% free at app.krowntrading.net, and there's all sorts of cool stuff in like the news tab, the economic calendar, and all that good stuff as well. So check that on out. Anyways, or don't check it out. I mean, it's for you. Anyway, it's supposed to help. I use it. That's why we had this done, because I was just going around like a million different sites in the morning. It's like, why can't it would be much better to just have this in one place. Anyways, Bitcoin price action right here. What do we see? Bitcoin coming all the way down to Tesla 21 exponential moving average, down around that 97-ish 100 level that we spoke about last couple days. Now, we did go a little bit lower than what I was looking for over the weekend, but that's why I don't typically trade over the weekend, because I feel like my edge is diminished here. Didn't really have a good read on this price action. Bitcoin did break down. Yes, it is kind of in the midst of potentially putting in a head and shoulders here, but I don't put all that much weight on it just because it did happen on a weekend, and I'd rather just not trade during that time. Of course, for the people out there who've been trading this and been making a shit ton of money, massive congratulations, massive respect. But for myself, I do feel like technicals take kind of a little bit of a backseat to the weekend action, and fuckery takes a little bit more of a forward seat, more so than what you see during the regular trading week. Anyways, let's put on the drawing tools right here, and you can see that we're kind of caught within this blue box territory right now. We could certainly extend this if we are going to chart this on a 4-hour. However, I believe I did make this on about a 12-hour. Yes, indeed I did, and we're still kind of holding it as it stands. So I don't really have too strong of an opinion on this. Again, remembering that today is kind of a holiday, but what I want to tie in right now is something that I alluded to at the beginning when we were looking at the app, and that is volatility on the 2-day chart. We do see that historical volatility percentile on the 2-day chart is now at quite literally the lowest level that we've seen since November 2018. November 2018 being this precipice before 6,000, letting all the way down to about 3,000. Now, that does not mean it's 100% going to go down, but it does mean that we are likely to see a pretty damn big move from this price point. And I do believe that the timing component of this, as verified by the historical volatility percentile on a time frame that really does matter, like the 2-day, say is very, 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 very likely to give us this next big move, probably sometime this week. I would say that we can kind of nail it down to that. And we can go over a few more case studies with this and kind of look at it together. But the time before that we were actually this low was on the September failed rally attempt right here. You see that Bitcoin absolutely just shattered the floor, going all the way from about 7,500 all the way down to 6,000 low right after that. The time before that was on this major pump up right here, going all the way from about 6,300 to what was it, like 8,300 right on over here. I actually remember that one quite fondly. And the time before that was all the way down from about 10,000 down to 6,000. So again, this does not imply direction, but it does imply that a big move isn't coming. Couple that with the fact that open interest is very, very high. We can see that very, very likely we are going to get a pretty damn big move, and it's probably going to come this week, as you don't really see historic volatility percentile stay this low before seeing the expansion phase extrapolate, essentially. Let me just make sure that my microphone's working and we're recording. Okay, we are, so that's good. We're only 6 minutes in, so even better. But now what we can do is we can couple this up with a few more things. So what I've also noticed on this is that our momentum oscillators, coupled with the volatility and also open interest, really get a good read for getting a bias on direction, of course. And what do we see in the past? Let's just I want to go through this one together, because I think that it's important to kind of come up with your own ideas, but I'm just going to present mine, and then, take what you want, discard what you don't like, and go tell me to fuck myself, because it's good. It's really, really good for my ego too. Anyways, so let's go through a few case examples right here. So we see in May 2018, right, historical volatility percentile gets very, very low. Open interest around that time, I actually do happen to remember, was quite high. But let's look at our momentum oscillators and see if there's any major clues as to what was going to happen. And first things first, what stands out a lot is that we actually did have bearish divergence between this point and this point, correlating with this high and this high. So bearish divergence plays out, 2-day Stokes start turning down, and boom, massive move down. We're talking about a move that from top to bottom was about a 40% move right there. Then the next time after that we got this low was actually on a major pump up right here on 12th of July in 2018. And what do you know? We do see that we had a little bit of bullish divergence coming off 2-day RSI, but more importantly, the 2-day Stokes seem to get this one a little bit better. They're turning up right here. This is the exact date right here, by the way, that you see that move start to happen. And it gets it right. So that, coupled with, again, our volatility, is giving us a bias to the direction of this major massive move, which open interest is further confirming, I would say. On top of that, we can go, and this is only 2 cases, so let's go over a few more. Let's check out this guy right here on 31st of August. That was this failed rally attempt all the way up to about 7,500 in September of 2018. Now here we don't see the same sort of we don't see the same bearish divergence, but we do see that 2-day Stokes start turning down right at that price point. And what do you know? Really like about half week later, this price action plays out for about a 20% move to the downside. So we're talking about a pretty damn big move here, even on the lower end, like 20%. And then of course this guy right here getting extremely low once again. In late October, early November, and it actually does take a little bit for this one to play out. To be fair, a couple weeks, actually, about a week and a half, and at the same time, we do see that 2-day Stokes start to really curl down right around this region, and that one's a little bit more of a harder read. To be fair, you could have gone both ways on that one because it did flip around quite a bit. But of course, this one, the infamous about 50% drop from 6,000 down to 3,000, and then more recently did we have a read down here? No, actually, we didn't even get that low on the last breakout from March 2019, from about 4,000 to 14,000. I just want to look at one more from a different market cycle in October 2016. We do see that's coming out of this base right here. What happens on our momentum oscillators? 2-day RSI not really telling us all that much. We were back above the exponential right here, as you can see. So a little bit of a bias upside there, but 2-day Stokes calling it right here as they do head back upwards and onwards. So I would say that those things paired together are pretty damn good as far as getting the general move. I'll look at one more just from a different sort of market cycle, just so we can get, a wide dearth of, it's a fucking dumb word. It sounds fucking stupid, but you know what I'm trying to say. A couple more examples from a different, from a more dynamic microcycle. We do see October 2015, extremely low right here. What do we see on 2-day Stokes? They actually start to turn up right at that price point as well. And boom, basically calls a low essentially. Alongside that, 2-day RSI is well above the exponential on as well. So I really like all these things lining up with each other. And I think that, well, we can actually look at one more. Just so what I'm getting here is that, sorry, I want to put the spotlight on this guy right here, August 2014, on basically a bull trap, very, 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 very low. And you do see, more importantly, that the exponential on the RSI starts to really act as resistance. And we do also see that from our stochastic perspective, they are down the whole way as well. So kind of like the trifecta of what I'm looking at, or perhaps it's like a quadfecta, is open interest plus historical volatility percentile gives the approximate timing of this move and the severity of that move. So we're probably talking about on the shorter end, probably like a 20% move. On the higher end, on the higher end, there's no real limit, unfortunately. So can't really even go off that, but it is good to have like kind of a minimum. And then on top of that, to get bias on direction, the momentum oscillator is talking about the exponential's relationship to the RSI, and then also stochastic just general direction, especially coming from bullish and bearish control zones, has seemed to get things right more or less pretty much the whole time. Anyways, so we do have a very, very similar read right here. We are in the single digits. We are literally maybe even below 1. Yeah, we're quite literally at a 1 read on historical volatility percentile. That is an outlier of outliers low. It's very, very low comparatively speaking. And you also do see that we've kind of been contracting here for a long time. And if you did run a nice trend line through here, I would say that this next move is probably gonna, you're probably gonna have a good idea when this next move is done, because you'll see a spike up to meet somewhere around this trend line and stay in line with these declining tops longer term, setting up for like the big bad breakout. I think in the second half of this year. Anyways, what do we see right now? Well, number one, we do see that 2-day Stokes are actually below the exponential, not good. We also do see that 2-day RSI below the exponential, not good. We also see that 2-day Stokes coming down as well from a very, 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 very high area. I mean, taking even the most aggressive slope of this, we've kind of already broken that one. If we take a little bit of a less aggressive slope coming off the lows, I would say that we're probably going to see this area met, which would be a retest of kind of the lower end of the bullish control zone. And then if that area does break, I'd look for this area all the way down here to be met. We do have 3 points connected, which does make a trend, and that would be bringing us likely all the way down to the neutral or upper end of the bearish control zone, depending upon which time frame we actually approach it from. So there are legitimate bearish things in the books right now. What does make me a little bit skeptical is just the fact that today's a holiday, and overall, this price action I'm not really like too concerned with, to be quite honest with you, longer term. But I am curious what it would look like if we shaved 20% off the top, just for argument's sake, and let's see what that would give on like a lower echelon. And look at that. It would be bringing us right down to the mid 8,000s number, which is beautifully done right in the midst of this blue box territory. A nice little order block coming in from our higher low that we set in late January, it looks like. And then also, I do think, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see if the median weekly trolling band is actually coming in around that region as well. And you know what? We do see that it is, yes, actually right fucking there. Beautifully done. And again, this video I'm doing with a completely fresh look on the charts. Like I said, I spent all morning setting up the new computer, which I'm really, really proud of, but also a little bit frustrated with at the same time. So yeah, a lot of things coming in that region. I do think that the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly as well is coming in around that region. Yes, high 8,000s, actually more like 8,750 at this current price point. But the thing is that we do see over a long period of time, when we're talking about macro behavior, that Bitcoin does like to play off that area in its long-term upwards markets, as well as off of it in the downwards markets as well. It's just a nice little pivot point for those, for those rallies. You see that we tested plenty of times in this bull market, going all the way from 2015 or late 2015 to 2018, and all the major lows are had on this yellow 21. It is a beautiful kind of reaccumulation point as far as you can see, and we can even expand this a little bit further back towards the genesis of this trading asset, and same sort of results running over here, and of course vice versa to the downside. It works plentiful well as well. We also do see that the red 10 simple is getting ready for across the upside of the yellow 21 exponential moving average, which usually when that does happen, we do see a test somewhere around those two moving averages. You see this example right here, Bitcoin price action kind of consolidating at this level as they cross, and then boom, nice move up. Before that, we do see that, this cross happening right on over here. So way long ago, and literally doesn't give it even a chance to kind of unfuck itself, or I mean, well, fuck itself, I suppose, for another 2-3 years later. So my point is that, you get the cross right here, test comes into the 10 simple a little bit later, and lovely, just all the way through. And same thing for, for our more earlier examples right here, gets across, tests it, boom, gets across, tests it, boom, and all good. So I would say that actually is in the cards right now, and we actually do have a legitimate way of getting a little bit of downside in this trading asset, to the tune of about, mid to maybe high 8,000s. I don't really have a strong opinion on that, but my point is that with price action acting the way that it is right now, I do want to seriously consider the downside potential of this asset. And then this is all going to take a backseat to what I'm saying right now. So what we just spoke about, that whole first 15 or so minutes of it, and this is going to be great for the people who leave really mean comments, because they probably only just listen to a little portion of it, but that's all more or less experimental type technical analysis. Is it cool to look at? Yes, absolutely. Does it hold a lot of weight? Yes, absolutely. But at the end of the day, going level by level is the best way to avoid all the fuckery that is that this asset loves to have. And what would that mean essentially at this price point? I would not be looking for that price action to really even come down below, let's call it 9,200, for example, or even really, well, technically 9,500, until we get a full informal close, especially on a daily, especially on a 12-hour, preferably a daily though, below this blue box right here, the same one that we've been saying for the past few weeks, that as long as we're above it, I can't really get too bearish. But if this area is destroyed, if 9,550 to 9,600 area is destroyed, then yes, I would likely look for, at the very least, to move down to about 9,200, probably another bounce there, and then likely continuation down to the mid to high 8,000s, which is where we start to see all those things starting to fill in with each other once again. And this is also going to be a little bit mediated and perhaps helped by the weekly read right here. So remember last night we closed the weekly, and it actually is going to look like a rejection of the top triangular band, which usually when you get a rejection of the top triangular band, you will come down somewhere around either the 10 simple or the 20 simple, which is just the red and kind of the gray one in the midst right here. More long term. So that will naturally give it a chance to kind of crawl its way upwards and onwards. So I would be looking at this next week of price action with a little bit of a skeptical eye, because I need to see a couple things in order to get actually bearish on it, looking for that move down, another $1,000+ and that, I mean, basically a 20% move essentially. And first and foremost, if we take out the low side of last week's weekly dildo, which is 96.42 on Mexico, and I'm curious what it is on Stamp. Do we get down a little bit lower? Yeah, actually a little bit lower, funnily enough, right around 9,600 even. And I'm actually going to run with that one, because I do think that Bitstamp has just a little bit more accuracy with those reads longer term. If we do take out that's going to be the first major warning shot. While I do think that there'd be likely another bounce around 9,600-ish region, if we do even just take out the low side of it, just tick below it, it's going to start to not look all that hot, all that healthy for the short and medium term, I would say. And then the next sort of major damage that could be done to price action would be essentially closing the daily below about 9,600, 9,550-ish region. If that happens, like I said, that's when I start to look down towards this next region. But until that happens, as it stands right now, we still do have higher lows. We do have hidden bullish divergence potentially in the making, if this can get confirmed as a local low, which is not done just yet. And if that does happen, I would be looking for Bitcoin to pop back up to about 10,200. And in fact, I do think that Bitcoin is going to get a move back up around there. We did get that rally that we spoke about yesterday, ending the day at around 10,000, a little bit above. Yeah, actually, wait, hold on, 10,000. Or it says 9. What do we have on BitMexico? 99.34. What about Stamp? Where did Stamp end? Oh, 99. Okay, so for whatever reason, I thought that we closed around 10,000. Oh well, all good. My point is that I wouldn't be looking for that move to happen until at the very least we destroy even the most preliminary region of what we're looking at right now. So wick below about 9,600, that starts to be a little bit damning. A daily close below 9,550, 9,600, that is the obvious trigger for at the very least to move down to about 9,200, probably a bounce there, and then continuation down to that ultimate target that we just spoke about. However, like I just said, I am hesitant to be looking for that, and I actually do think that Bitcoin has a chance to put in a little bit of a local low right here. The problem problem is that with today being a holiday, I'm very skeptical of just price action overall. And looking at it right now, we are seeing momentum oscillators head down all across the board, essentially on the higher time frames. This is your daily right here. In fact, we are going to be meeting this trend line though, so I do think that is relevant. We should be hitting it today. Sorry, these trend lines coming from different time frames. That's why there's all sorts of wild trend lines going across the lands. But my point is that yes, we are going to be coming down to this level right here. Which, if that does start to turn back up again, that's likely going to form this as a local low. And if this does form as a local low, it will be considered a higher low, and then hidden bullish divergence will play out, and we'll probably head back at the very least to test around 10,200, and then wait for the next move. Essentially, it's difficult here to get bullish on Bitcoin as long as we are below about 10.4 on a daily closing basis, and if you're looking at a 4-hour, basically the same area actually. 10.4 is kind of like that critical area, but even just taking above whatever a high was last week, which is 10.500 on some exchanges, 10.550 on Mexico, I do believe, then that would make me bullish for a continuation down up to 10,900 to 11,000. So what am I essentially saying for today? Well, I'm saying for today that what we're probably going to be looking at, or what would be most healthy for Bitcoin, is going a little bit of sideways here and confirming a local low, which would be had if and only if we do get a close. Well, 12 hours does not look good. I just have to say that straight up. 12 hours does not look fucking good. Let's see, what about a 4-hour? What would confirm this as a local low here? If we could just get a 4-hour total closing back above about $10,000, about 99.50 would do it. It's tight margins here, unfortunately. 12-hour just looks nasty no matter which way you kind of cut it. What about a daily? Daily will confirm as a local, as a local low if we can just trade above yesterday's high at $10,050. It looks like. What was our other exchange's high though? Yeah, about 10,050. It looks like across the board. Okay, fair enough. So it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game. I'm not going to be trading today. I have no interest in trading today. This is just fuckery. This is just absolute shit that I'm just not interested in right now. Jesus Christ, man. But shout out to all the people trading out there. Like I said, I will be on Twitch later tonight, so perhaps we do get some price action. But as it stands right here, I don't really see too much of an edge for myself. The way that we're kind of holding on to this blue box territory on the 12-hour, it looks okay for now, but I'm not necessarily sure how much I actually trust this one. So today you're probably you're gonna hear me like what happens every once in a while. I don't really have a strong opinion, and when I don't have a strong opinion, I don't trade. And like I said, this is a fresh look at the charts for me, and it's pretty much solidified in my mind. I'll be waiting until I see some obvious here. Right now, I don't necessarily see something obvious. The fun stuff is what we kind of open up this chat with. What we're talking about right now, I don't think is all that helpful, to be quite honest with you, and I do apologize. But that is, those are my true thoughts, and I always want to be as transparent as possible with that sort of a thing. Anyways, what we can do is we can check out the other top altcoins and see how they're holding up, and maybe come up with a further bias on this. And let me just make sure that, okay, we're about 20 minutes in. Before we do that, I will check out the expected moves chart and look at CMEs. So first things first, let's look at CMEs. CMEs do look to me like they're probably going to try a little bit of a rally off this region. I probably would be looking for a bounce here on the lower time frames. Does that mean that we're getting ready for a bounce back up to like 10.2? Perhaps yes. I do think that would be essentially filling the gap, and in this at this point when we open up on a gap down on a holiday weekend, I am inclined to say that we probably do fill this gap before anything else. But the question is that gap fill going to be a major sell? Perhaps yes, especially if that historical volatility percentile read plus all momentum oscillators on the 2 days is going to play out. But that's essentially what's at stake right now. Anyways, let's look at a daily right here. What do we see? Daily looks like we probably do come in test down, ultimately down around 9,600, but I would be expecting a bounce at 9,600 on the lower time frames. What about a weekly? Weekly looks potentially toppy here, especially if we take out last week's low at 95.10. So what I have done is I put in an alert right here. If we do take out last week's low at 95.10, that's going to be the most clear and concise signal that I can actually get, or that I can actually get. That's going to allow price action to come back down below $9,000, and I'd probably be looking between about 8,500 and 8,800ish region. And you do see that on CMEs, conveniently, we do have the yellow 20-month exponential moving average coming in right around 8,850ish, a little bit below 8,800. But This is just a difficult read right here, because we did get a full closure outside of the top 200 band. So it does make me very apprehensive to be bearish. But at the same point in time, if we take out the low side of that, this is going to look like an actual hangman. And it's exactly what it sounds like going down after that. And I would say a minimum target of down of a little bit below 9,000 actually. Now I do think that we'd have a bounce at 9,200 to be fair, but remember this is talking about a little more high time frame stuff, so it's not, we'll have to take it one step by one step. But as it stands right now, this is a little bit problematic here. We do see that that CMEs are going to be testing the exponential on the RSI after rejecting the bullish control zone, but I'm curious how that's operating on our spot charts, which is the one that we've been really following quite a bit. And what do you know? We do see that wait, where's my blue boxes? There they are. There we go. So we do see a couple things of particular interest here, and this actually does make me a little bit more interested long term as well, because the same thing that I've been referencing for the last I don't know, few months realistically is this blue box on weekly RSI. Anytime that Bitcoin's been above it since the beginning, Bitcoin's been bullish. Anytime that we've been below it, generally bearish. And you do see that we confirmed above it for the first time just a couple weeks ago, for the first time quite literally since the run from 4,000 to 14,000 right over here, which we spoke about at length in the long-term analysis video that I posted yesterday in the long-term analysis playlist. Or actually, I don't think I put it in the long-term analysis playlist, which makes me realize I should probably do that. Anyways, my point is that usually after Bitcoin does get its first breakout out of this blue box, we do come back down and test it, and actually that becomes like the major basing area for the for our bull markets, and the major sell-off area for our bear markets. A good example would be breaking above it right on over here, comes back, retests it, and what do you know? That's on this major spike down before this major move up. And more recently, we saw this guy right here in April 2019. That was the breakup from 4,000 to 14,000. And what do you know? Bitcoin breaks it out, comes back down, tests a blue box, beautiful buy, and then boom, big move up. Now, what are we doing right here? We've tested essentially the bullish control zone. It's rejected from it. And what do you know? The blue box territory just looming right underneath. We do see that the exponential on the weekly is going to be coming in line with this blue box probably over the next week or two, just one more tick, maybe two more ticks at most. And that would probably align for a decent enough test of that region. How much damage is done to price action in the interim? Well, could it be that we just come down and base around 9,600 and just don't break down? Possible, yes, possible. Could it be that we come all the way down to the 21 at around 8,800, 8,500-ish region? I'm certainly within the cards, but going level by level, I would still not consider this one broken until at the very least we take out last week's wick low, which is again about 9,600 on Stamp. I think it's like 9,650 on Mexico actually, and or a daily close below about 9,550, whichever one happens first. Well, obviously taking out the wick low is going to happen first, but daily close would further confirm that next move down. Like I said, I would look for a bounce somewhere around 9,200 in between there. Anyways, okay, cool. All right, so now let's go down to the lower term timeframes once again, and remember, I'm not all that enticed by this current price action. Let me take off the 200 bands right here. And we can rechart this one for the 4 hour just for, well, no, let's actually keep it on the 12 hour just because already have this one all nicely done. And keep in mind all of the major areas. So 10,150 to 10,200 is our more preliminary resistance right around here. More preliminary supports right around 98-ish, if you want to call it that, on the lower end. These are all on closing bases, by the way, which is what we're going to look at on expected moves. And if we do break this area, I would look for price action to come down and test around 9,600 to 9,550. If we do break even just above yesterday's high at about 10,000, a little bit above 10,000 bucks, I would look for a move all the way up to about 10,150 to 10,200, fill the gap, and probably pull back from there. We'll have to reassess that one in real time. But let's see how the probabilities align with this. And what do you know? On the daily, we do see that the first standard deviation is showing a range between about 10,000 bucks to the upside and 9,550 to the downside. So to the downside, I would suggest that we actually do bounce off that area once again. But is damage actually done before that? Well, it actually would say that the probabilities are on more downside here, because just going back below, what is this? That's we are on Stamp right here. Just going back below yesterday's low is actually within the bounds of the first deviation. We got about 50 bucks lower on that ring, so it is a little bit more likely, of course, because to get above yesterday's high at about 10,050, that's actually outside the top standard deviation of the first ring right here as well. So technically a little bit more probabilities on the downside as it stands right now. It's more or less pretty damn close. But more importantly, we're not going to get the daily can switch around quite a bit because it's talking about 24 hours from now. What's a little bit more relevant is perhaps a 12-hour, which is going to get around the daily close, especially when I record this video with about maybe 14 hours left in the day to go. Or sorry, actually maybe a little more than that, but close enough. Anyways, my point is that's angled down here as well. Unfortunately, we do see that 9,600 likely does bounce things. Can we close a 12-hour below? I think that's the point of no more excuses for Bitcoin, and I would be looking for that deeper retracement. If Bitcoin does not close below, could we bounce off it again? Yeah, but I'd probably look at that as just only a short-term thing. I don't think that coming back down to revisit this level is at all a good situation. If this is going to operate as a local low, really don't want to see Bitcoin even break below the current low of today, which is about 9,700 even on Stamp. By the same token, to the upside, it's actually even less of a probability to break above yesterday's high, which would kind of curtail that extension to 10,150 to 10,200 and fill that gap on CMEs. So it could be that this gap actually takes a little bit of time to get filled. Really starting to cut hairs on this one right now because I don't really, you're seeing me not really have a strong opinion on price action. If anything, it'd be a little more on the bearish side. I'm sure people are calling this a head and shoulders. Technically speaking, I get really skeptical when I see kind of like an obvious one, just because it seems to me like those are the ones that are most likely to have a little bit of fuckery on them. But this actually does work as one. The volume signature is right. The shape is more or less okay. Any sort of a 12-hour total closure below about 9,800, and technically that does, that would confirm it. And we'd probably be looking at a measure move. Just kind of eyeballing it right now, about like $600 lower perhaps. So that'd bring us down to about 9,200 down around here. So fair enough. Anyways, let's go check out the top altcoins and see how they're doing. I'm curious if there's any sort of a major bias to be had with them. Let's go check out Mr. Buterin first, trading at 251, having a much better reaction than Bitcoin did, coming off this test of the blue box territory, our lowest support. And this one looking and acting a lot better overall. In fact, going down to the lower time frames, what do we see here? I do think that it's getting ready for a bounce back up to about 260-ish territory, and that's going to be the real test. Can it actually break above 260, or does it get stonewalled there? If it breaks back above 260-ish region, then I would be looking for extension back to this blue box, 275 to 280-ish region. Apologies for that one. Not necessarily too accurate. I meant about 270 to 275. Getting a little bit ahead of myself right there, but would start to look a lot better as far as the higher time frames go. So that's kind of what's at stake right now. I'm curious about the 12, or we just looked at the 12-hour. What about the daily? Yeah, more sideways here is actually okay for this one. Just got the golden cross about a week ago. 21 exponential moving average going to get tested somewhere in this blue box territory. So perhaps we do create a range between about 235 and about 270 over the next few weeks, and that'd be more or less constructive. Can Bitcoin hold up during that time? Well, I do think that this rounds out a bias for a bounce in the short term, but does a bounce short term get continuation overall? I do like the weekly read on this one. The weekly closing relatively strong, I would say. And probably setting up for a test a little bit more medium term towards about 300 to 310. So you know what? It's strange to me right here because Mr. Buterin does not make me want to be bearish. He makes me want to be looking for a little bit of sideways, short term bullish, medium term sideways, long term probably test back up to like 310-ish region, give or take. Looking at Mrs. Litecoin, what do we see here? Mrs. Litecoin, a little bit less of a helpful weekly close. Actually, not all that good right here. Looks a lot more toppy than Mr. Buterin. In fact, it looks a lot more in line with what we're looking at on Bitcoin. So let's see how this one's kind of operating right now. We do see that kind of the same rejection of the bullish control zone on weekly RSI. Probably coming back down to test somewhere around the exponential on this baby. Not looking all that hot. What about on daily read? Same sort of thing right here. Just got a golden cross testing around the yellow 21. I am hesitant to get bearish as long as we're above about $67. This 377 exponential, the 377 exponential moving average right here. And if that does break, I would look for a move all the way down to test officially the golden cross in the $62.50 region right here. That's a must hold for Litecoin though. If that area does start to fail, we're going to see deeper retracements, certainly into the lower $50 region and probably below that. It's really not going to look good. I mean, this is going to look a complete bull trap right here. And we do have bearish evidence present on the daily RSI. We didn't really see the same thing on the other trading assets. So we see kind of a bifurcated market right now. Some strong, some on the weaker end. I'd say that Litecoin looks a little bit more like wants to go lower. Bitcoin a little bit more angled to the downside. Butyrol looks like he certainly wants to test some upside here, actually in the lower time frames at the very least. I want to go back to Bitcoin on the lower time frames to check this one out just a little bit more. Do we see anything of note here? We see a little bit of bullish divergence potentially forming. We do see that momentum oscillators are beat to shit, but still have a little bit of room to go. It's 4 hour, 3 hour, 2 hour, and hourly, all bifurcated. It does make me think that we swing around here a little bit more. Probably going to get another test to the downside, but does it have the momentum to break? I'm not so certain just yet. We do have bullish divergence forming on the hourly as well, but that doesn't mean all that much. It is 2 hour bullish divergence is confirmed as well. So do we get a test back up to about 9,900? I do think so, but that doesn't really do anything for the bulls or the bears here. Again, for bulls, needs to get back above 10,150, 10,200, and close 4 hour deltas above there. Even just closing above 10,000 would be pretty good. Closing anywhere below like 9,750, 9,800, and yes, I do think that we're going to see that we're going to at the very least test below 9,600, and that can have the avalanche of effects leading on for later this week. But man, this is today being a holiday. I mean, it just makes me not want to trade this at all, which I'm not going to do. Anyways, go check out some of the other top shitcoins, see how they're doing. What about Mr. Ripple's Nipples? How's he doing? How did he close out the week? Whoa, holy shit, man. So wait, oh, this is wrong chart. I want to look at XRP USD. Okay, so yesterday I said that I would be bullish on XRP if it did close above about 31.5 cents. That got obviously faded. Does look to me like it might test a little bit lower here, maybe back down to about 26 cents region, but I would be looking for bounces off that region as well. Looking at the daily too, we do see that a golden cross might be averted relatively soon. It does look kind of similar to Mr. Butyrol to me as well, in the sense that I do think that short term it's going to pop back up to maybe like 30 cents region, maybe 31 cents, right around here. But that doesn't do all that much for price action. I do think that we have some short-term bullishness probably across the board. If I had to guess, or if I had to call it right now, I'd say Bitcoin probably back up to like test 9,900, Butyrol to test whatever number we said earlier, and Ripple to test around 30 to 31 cents region, somewhere in this pocket right here. I do think that it will get that. We do have hidden bullish divergence in the making, and we do have regular bullish divergence actually in the making as well, and will be confirmed above 28.5 cents. So I do think that most things are going to pop up in the short term, but that's not going to do anything for the medium or long term on any of these assets right now. So it doesn't really give us too much clarity on the situation, unfortunately. What about EOS? What's EOS doing? Same thing, setting in a little bit of potentially another low here. Bullish divergence is almost confirmed, and I would be looking for this one to probably test back up towards the 460 region. What about Tron? Just listen to an interview with Justin Sun on FUD TV with Elliot. A really, really good interview actually. He asked all the questions that you'd want to know, and Justin Sun actually answered them like in a pretty interesting way. So definitely go check that out. And make your own decisions for yourself. Anyways, this one right here, again, short term probably up. Looks to me like it, at the very least, wants to test like 2.2 cents. But if things get a little more crazy, I'd look for about 2.5 cents somewhere in this pocket right here. Again, same thing though. Bullish divergence is in the making. I do think that we're probably going to test around that region. Doesn't really tell me too much for the macro. What about what else do we want to look at? Maybe BNB really, really quick. Same thing, literally same fucking chart right here. Probably does pop back up towards about $24. And then game on after that. Forex pairs trading once again today, so we can go take a quick look at them. What about dollar yen? How's dollar yen doing? Looks like it's consolidating at a higher level. I do think that this one's going to pop back up towards north of 110. But realistically, I do think that longer term is going to be headed up towards this region, about 110.5, and then the blue box maybe long term. Looking at the weekly right here, I do like last week's close, and I do like how this week has started thus far, and I do think overall it's just going to float its way up. Pound yen, pretty much the same thing here. I think it's just going to float its way up. We've tested this support a million goddamn times. Closed above the 200 simple for the first time in a very long time, in about a few months on last week. I do think that we're going to test now some resistance. And if this area can actually get taken out at above 145 region, then I would look for extension to the 200 exponential moving average right around 146, looking pretty all right there. Gold, what do we see on gold? I'm still more, have we hit targets on gold yet? Nope, not just yet. I still have 1590 in the cards here. I do think that 1590 does get tested. And I do think, and I do look at this thus far as reaccumulation looks okay to me. And I do think that longer term, it's still gonna still would be looking at 1610 to 1630. Been more or less boring over the last like month or so with this one going, just in a consolidation phase. But I do think that this is healthy, and I would not be bearish on gold. I think that most people who are bearish on gold right now are I don't think that is really based in reality. And I'm not like a gold fiend. I'm not a gold bug. I don't really care for gold as a trading asset, but it's hard for me to look at the monthly and not be bullish on this. This is bullish. And I do think that longer term, it's going to find its way back up to like 1750-ish region. This is actually a very constructive chart long term. I really, really like it. Anyways, back on a Bitcoin right here. Let's start to wrap this bitch up. It's already been about 40 minutes long. God damn it, man. I don't even have like fully formulated thoughts. Just go, and I'm not even getting this from Bitcoin right now. I'm actually not getting this from Bitcoin at all right now. Just going off of the other altcoins, because they all seem to have the same signatures going on. I do think that we're going to see a rally back up somewhere around, at the very least, 9,900, but probably $10,000. That's where things get a little more hairy. I do think that's a strong likelihood. Again, that would be, if we're looking at day out, that would be, within 68% chance likelihood to get around there. But what happens after that point is going to be more or less is going to more or less show the long-term situation here. Was this weekend just a fake out, and this is all just bullshit price action, and Bitcoin floats back up towards 10,200, anywhere above 10,200, that would look very, 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 very good for Bitcoin. And while I'm not necessarily saying that's just going to blast you the fucking roof right after that, I would say that the bias would still be bullish, of course. By the same token, I would get short-term bearish, even though right now I'm actually not short-term bearish, if we get a 4-hour total closure below where we're kind of operating off of right now at about 97.50. If that does happen, at the very least, I'd look for a move down here towards about 95.50. Well, at the very least 9600, but probably 95.50. Short-term bounce there, probably bounce fails if that were to happen. And then we'll head down to like 9,200. By the same token, the upside the upside is a little bit more difficult here, just because as long as we're below 10,200, there's always going to be gap down kind of reversal talk in the making. I think that is relevant, to be fair. But if Bitcoin can get back above it, that would be yet again another change of behavior on the lower term time frames, and I'd kind of remain with a general bullish bias on the macro. Short term, medium term, it's going to float around. Probably spend some time consolidating between these two levels, between about 9,800 and 10,400. That would probably be the best thing for Bitcoin bulls right now. But the critical points of failure to the downside is not for the short term. I'm talking about medium and long term here. Is again below about 9,550 or 9,600ish region on a higher time frame close. 12-hour minimum would be great, and that would set us up for a move down to about 9,200, probably another bounce there, and then continuation perhaps even down to like 88 or 8,500ish region. But until that happens, I do think that short term, it very likely does pop back up like later today. I would be looking for probably about $10,000 to be tested, or especially 99.50ish region, and then we'll just have to come back and reassess after that. If Bitcoin can close above 10,000, I do think that 10,200 will get tested, but I don't have an opinion on if 10,200 would actually get taken out, because that will be fulfilling the gap on CMEs, which is very much present right here. And I'm going to put an alert there right now. So it's just going to be a little bit of a wait and see game. I do apologize if this video today was not that helpful, but for me, it is very important to be as authentic as possible when creating these videos, because as a trader, sometimes I just don't have a strong opinion on things. And I think that that's important to relay, because I think a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves to always have an opinion or always have a position, even worse, on price action. And I don't think that I don't think that this is the time right now. I do think that the only thing that I feel relatively strongly about is that Bitcoin does get a pop back up and test around $10,000, and then we'll kind of decide from there. And then above 10,200, actually get short-term, medium-term, and long-term bullish once again. But as long as we're kind of playing between about 9,700, 9,750 to about 10,200. It's kind of in limbo here, especially on a holiday after a three-day weekend. I'm not so intent to be playing that. So I want to wish everyone well, and I want to apologize if people, if you found this video not helpful, but I hope that it was helpful to the people who make an effort to listen, really, as those are the people who I want to be communicating with. Other than that, I'll be signing off right now. I'll be back on later with some more Twitch analysis and also some Twitch gaming. So really looking forward to that, especially if you have the game. We can raid together. That'd be pretty damn fun. And we can watch some shitty Bitcoin price action in the meantime while it tries to make up its mind. With all that said, take care, and until next time.